Hey, what up, though? How y'all feeling? Everybody good? Your man, your friend, and family member is 901. You know what time it is. It's time for some Intel Love Marriage Huntsville. I know what you're thinking, like, Bray, this was last week's episode. If you've been following the channel here, yes, I know this was last week's episode, but also, too, I know that you guys really do love my take on this show. So I'm like, let's get back to it. Why not? So, even though this was last week's episode, I hope you guys do enjoy my opinions on this episode because I did have a lot to say. So, everything on this channel is alleged, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes only. Once again, everything on this channel is alleged, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes only. Rather, once again, everything on this channel is alleged, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes only. So, let's do what we do. So, we're with Chris Fletcher at Welcome Home Realty. And so Chris Jr. rather, comes by the office and, Chris asked Chris Jr. about cleaning the warehouse over at the cleaning company. And Chris said, yeah, that got done. And, Chris is like, what's going on? What else is going on, man? So working, hustling studio, and they talk about the Fletcher family dinner and that, that it was a lot going on and people storming off, and Chris Fletcher said that Lexi did come back and apologize. um and the dogs are talked about, and Chris is like, well, you do realize like why your mom is doing that, right? Because for every action there's an equal opposite reaction. I'm paraphrasing, but basically, because of the circumstances, there has to be a maturity level of taking responsibility. And I think that's what Nell was trying to do, was like, okay, I need you to have I need you to have a mental, I need you to have a consequence that really is impactful and that it hits you mentally every time that you think about it. Because if you think about that consequence mentally, maybe that might help you step up. Because and I get it, because at the beginning, middle, end of the day, if you don't discipline your kids, they will not they will not be able to have self-control and to know how to make decisions. And it's the same thing, with me. When I was punished, it was to make me better. I would have my phone taken away. Of course, I got whoopings, not a lot of them, but I got whoopings. No TV, not going to a bit with a friend. Those consequences held me accountable. Because here's the thing, those consequences and the punishments, those were small compared to the consequences and the punishments that I could get as an adult. So I do believe in holding accountability, but also too, sometimes some things are bigger than consequences. So as we roll on here, and when I say that sometimes things are bigger than consequences, I do mean mental health. And we get into that with this scene here. Chris Fletcher asked, Chris Jr., do you not think that there's a problem not talking to your mom? Because Chris, Jr. hasn't talked to his mom in some days after the dinner. And Chris Fletcher said, "You seem to leave yourself out. You seem to be missing. You seem to, be out of sorts." Um, Chris Jr. feels that if he stays to himself, he doesn't have to hear the opinions. And Chris Fletcher said, "Do you feel like we were picking at you?" And Chris Jr. said, "Not picking at me, but there was a lot of pointing the fingers." And he said that I didn't know what he said, because he said, "I go to the low." But some people have said studio. But either way, at 2 or 3 a.m., he gets in his car, he goes somewhere. Almost every weekend, Chris Jr. hardly sleeps. And Chris Fletcher says that, it sounds like it may be depression or a form of it. And, Chris Fletcher says, "I will stop everything um, I'm doing to help you. And I'll never be too busy to help my kids." And Chris Jr. said that we gotta get together more. And Chris Fletcher said, "I'd rather, you call me than being out on the streets." And I just want to say to Chris Fletcher, first of all, the love, the care, the sincerity that you have for your family is very well appreciated, loved, and respected. And I appreciate that they allowed um, that they allowed that conversation to be on TV. It reminds me of the Tylers, Big Jamie, Little Jamie, and their relationship. Of course, this relationship here is a lot more calmer than the Tylers. Let's go ahead and be real about it. For those of you who remember, um, Love and Marriage DC. But I do appreciate that, on this show, the Love and Marriage franchise, is that they do allow men to speak. Um, and I say that because I feel a lot of times in life we do not have spaces to speak because men are supposed to be this, men are supposed to be that. Be strong, you'll get through it. Black families say pray about it. Some people say do ganja. Everybody tells you what to do, but everybody doesn't allow you to breathe. And I've learned that recently, that sometimes people just need you to listen. And I don't think it is intentional that people try to do false positivity or they try to not listen. I think it's the fact of if you're raging waters and I'm raging waters, then guess what? We're both drowning mentally. So somebody has to be the calm in this current of water that's flowing. In this river and stream of consciousness. So I appreciate the fact that Chris Fletcher really allowed his son to breathe. And trust me, being the kid of a parent is not easy. I mean, that's the only way you can be a kid is of a parent, unless you are adopted as well. We cannot forget those people. And sometimes, bigger than adoption, sometimes family is really who loves you and who comes through for you too. Family is not always blood, because we gotta recognize that not every family is a traditional family, right? So we gotta recognize all sides here. And what I really did appreciate was we got more context to Chris Jr. And honestly, the dinner that they had is not that off the wall of other family dinners. And I think when cooler heads prevail, I think that's when solutions come. Because think about it, when have you ever gotten a solution in a heated conversation? I did that pause just for all of us to just have that moment of when okay now I had conversations like that, but I don't think I've ever gave a solution, received a solution. And I think that's why and time, space, and reflection is important. So I really, really did appreciate that. And to Chris Jr., as one black son to another black son, just know I haven't been to jail. I have not been to jail. But I do understand what it is to be in a mental jail, that you are trying to do everything that you can and nothing is coming back to you. And you're just trying to find your mental security blanket. Just know that people are rooting for you. In this community of Love and Marriage Huntsville, they get so downtrodden deep, and they dig their nails in, and they don't allow people to breathe. Just know that the experience that you're going through, other people have had that same experience. They just don't have enough of a vote. They don't. I was about to say something else, but they don't. They don't have enough. They don't have enough of a bandwidth or range to be able to understand that. For some, they're not going to have either of those because they don't have the capacity, capability, comprehension to execute, having space for that. And then some people haven't been through what you've been through. But just know that you are still here to make something of yourself. And I have to recognize that too. I think about, I was on Facebook recently, Chris Jr. and Chris Fletcher and everybody. I was recently on Facebook, and King was wanting to pursue music, and that I'm trying to make a name for myself, and Ti said you haven't put in the work yet. And I'm trying to fight for what I have, and Ti said keep fighting, young man. And everybody, his grandmother and Tiny were calling him, and Ti said stop calling him, let him sit with himself, cry it out, and let him figure out what he needs to do. And although I agree with that method, sometimes being alone by yourself for too long can not can be detrimental as well. And I think that although we do need foundation to be able to rise to our elevation, we also need communication as well. One thing cannot work without the other. So to Chris Jr., just know I love you, I value, I embrace you, and I'm pulling for each and every one of y'all because y'all. I mean, outside the family dinner, y'all seem to be like a real cool family. Like if I came through for a barbecue, like I feel like I would have a very good time with y'all, and y'all feel like a relatable family. I think that's why so many people are connecting themselves with y'all, but being more than relatable. I think it's nice to see a family that has made it to the top still has issues that us people at the bottom. And when I say us at the bottom, I mean that we're not on that level of a profile. For those of you who want to be messy, trifling, heathen, not be here for any hot tea, but you throw hot tea on other people, but you ain't responsible for when it gets back on you, or just one to just be out the way for no damn reason. I did not mean that, because one of my good friends said there's lessons at the bottom that the top can't teach you, but it's nice to see that whether you're at the top of the world or at the bottom of the world, we all still go through ish. So that is my take on that. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. One love, much love, all love, everybody. Bye, yeah, 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 bye, yeah, 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 yeah. Bye, everybody.